Hello, class. Today we're talking about the Etruscan myth. My name is Saraha Wilson, and this is Book Talk Week 6. Now, before we get into the actual myth um, and all of the information, if you would like to follow along, page 190 in your textbook, it's called Rome, Urban Life, and the Imperial Majesty. But it's actually page 195 for the actual topic. So if you'd like to follow along, you're more than welcome. So, before we get into a little bit of the myth and the more details of what the actual topic's about, we need to talk about Rome, specifically here in this circle. And it was split, the origins of Rome were split between two different cultures. One of them being the Greeks, which colonized Sicily and also the coastal regions of the Italian peninsula, and the others being the Etruscans, which their homeland was Etruria, which also is modern day Tuscany. So, like I said, we need to dive in and talk a little bit about the Etruscan roots. Now, this is a topic right before the actual myth happens. And you read all about it, but I think it's a little bit important to talk about it before we talk about the myth. So the Etruscan people lived in Etruria, which was it occupied parts of the Italian peninsula, and it was bordered by the Arid River or the Arno River. I'm so sorry, the Arno River and the Tiber River. So none of the Etruscan literature survived, which is very sad. But 9,000 short texts do. Now the alphabet is very close to the Greek language or the Greek alphabet, but the language itself is very, very different. So by the 7th and the 6th century, the Etruscans were very major exporters. They exported things like fine painted pottery, a thing called bucero, which is a black ceramic ware, bronze work, jewelry, oil, and wine. And then by the 5th century, they were known throughout the Mediterranean for sculpture in both bronze and terracotta. Now let's talk about the beginning. And by the beginning, I'm talking about the founding of Rome. And like I said, there's also two different myths and two different versions of this story, the Greeks and the Etruscans. But today we're talking about the Etruscan myth. So the myth starts by there were two identical twins, Romulus and Remus. And Romulus and Remus were left by the riverside of the Tiber River to die, which is very sad as it sounds. But luck was on their side because they were saved by a she-wolf who basically nursed them back to health or raised them. They were also raised by shepherds, and they grew and decided to build a city on top of where they were found and or on top of where they were left. Now this is figure 10 she wolf. It's bronze with glass paster eyes, and their height is 33 inches. And you can find more about this on page 195. There's a section where um they talk about the radiocarbon dating and how they figured out how old this piece was. Now, as I've stated, she wolf basically saved them. And when they were grown and they built this city, they had an argument about who was going to rule the city. So basically, it was two brothers who battled it out. Now, everyone wants to know about this battle, but I pulled this quote out from the textbook, and it was by a Roman historian on page 195. And basically, what happens is Romulus actually kills Remus. So here's the quote. Then followed an angry altercation. heated passions led to bloodshed, and in atonement, Remus was killed, which it's a very sad way to die because you're brothers and you're arguing about who's gonna rule. And therefore, Romulus became the first king of Rome. And that's basically how Rome came to be. Now, this is what we have learned so far. Two babies got abandoned by a riverside. They were raised by she wolves and shepherds, and basically those two babies who turned into or who were brothers, um, argued and argued until obviously one brother killed the other. So Romulus killed Remus, and that's how you become the king of Rome. So if you have any other questions, refer to your textbook. This was a short um, explanation of the Etruscan founding myth. Thank you so much.